Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of Cauthe on the Mic. And every once in a while, I gotta take the selfish course of action and do an episode all for myself. One of my most favorite bands from what I call the MySpace era was a band called Halifax. I loved their cover of Paula Abdul's Straight Up. I loved the Writer's Reference EP. I loved Inevitability of a Strange World. As a matter of fact, my year-end podcast that I recorded in December of 2025 was called Inevitability of a Strange World, where I kind of reflected upon my 2025 year as a podcaster. Brand new band, a band called Great Danes, featuring two of the founding members of Halifax, Kevin and Mike. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, this is sweet. We're excited to talk.
Sweet. So, how does it feel to reflect back and see that what I called the MySpace era is 20 plus years ago now?
It's odd. It's more odd because of the fact that I don't think I ever thought it would come back in life in this big of a way. You know, like it was so big to us back then, and we were in the middle of it, and we were having a lot of fun and making cool music and playing awesome shows. And then we went on with life for a long while, 20 years or so. And it was just like, all right, that's part of the past now. And now we got back together and made some music. And we're like, well, it's actually not as much past anymore as it's kind of relevant again. So it's been bizarre, but it's cool at the same time. It's also fun to see a lot of the bands that we played with coming out again, making music again. So it's kind of like punk rock summer camp is back,
Kevin, what has been the nostalgia trip for you over this whole thing?
Yeah, for me, I think it's just crazy. Like you said, the 20 years. I think a lot of acts are focusing on that 20-year gap that's occurred, and it's just wild that it's been that long. We were about 20 years old when a Writer's Reference came out, right? And it's like, that's how old we were then. And now it's been that long since then. And for me, I was in Halifax just, for a kind of a brief time in the time that a Writer's Reference came out. And after I left, I kind of left and didn't really look back for a long time. In the last couple of years, I have and reconnected with those songs. Kind of was a cool experience for me too, because I hadn't listened to him in 20 years either. I left the band and that was that. And hearing him, it was like hearing him for the first time almost, and that was cool, especially with Sydney. It was fun.
I do want to hit on that because I did listen to the redo of Sydney several times this evening. Man, I'm going to give you guys some props because this is what I hear when I listen to Great Danes. I listen to what the heart of Halifax would have become had natural time progression occurred. And the best example I can give is if you listen to Thrice's Artist in the Ambulance and you listen to the new music that Thrice is putting out now, you can tell that they're the same band, but that they've evolved over time and let other influences seep in and maybe weren't as held or beholden to the guardrails that conventional genre markers would have held them to. I mean, is that a fair assessment?
I mean, you're touching on something like real, very real, right? Like, it's funny you say Thrice, considering it's a band that I just absolutely love, right? But like, if at least for me, I'll speak for myself personally, if I had stayed in Halifax, we would have not ever progressed musically to where I think that you're describing, right? I'm not saying like, I don't know, I don't want to get into too weird with that, but like, we were, I think, trying to evolve in a direction that personally I just wasn't aligned to. And now that so much time has passed, I'm able to kind of like stretch out a little bit, get comfortable again, and be like, what is the type of music that really energizes me, that gets me going? And I think that's what the evolution of music for Halifax would have been. I just was starting to feel really constrained and really kind of like pressured in certain directions. And I'm sure there's a lot of artists that feel that, especially when it comes to the whole label stuff. And it was just like, nah, this isn't it. This isn't it. And then 20 years later, getting a beer with Kevin after not talking forever, we're like, let's make some music again. And it kind of just sparked the same feeling, if I'm being honest, that I had, at least when a writer's reference was created. So I'm actually really, it makes me really happy to hear the way you put it, because that's really how I feel.
I love hearing that. Did either one of you, when you walked away from Halifax, Kevin in the early days and then Mike later on after Inevitability of Strange World, did either one of you walk away from it and say, you know what, never again. I'm not going to do this band thing anymore. I'm done with it. Either one of you have that feeling?
I think it's both, probably. I don't know, Kevin. Did you?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely did at that point. I had been playing in bands for what felt like a long time at that time, but what wasn't really that long. It was 5 or 6 years trying to tour and make it. And with Halifax, it really started to happen, and it was exciting. And as things progressed, I kind of didn't get along with some of the guys in the band, and I ended up leaving. And it was right as we signed a drive through, and the band was starting to take off. And me personally, at that point, I was just like, well, fuck this, dude. I'm not doing this again. Like, I've had enough. I'm gonna go back to college, and just like, that was my shot. That was it. If I couldn't make Halifax work, it's probably not in the cards for me.
I mean, like, by the time I finished up, at least what I felt like was the natural end for me, we were just making, at the time, a record I didn't believe in, right? And I could not wrap my head around continuing with something that I don't believe in, just period, right? And so beyond that, I thought to myself, okay, well, like, what if I did start over? What if I tried something different? And I think my brain just wasn't in that space. I think I was just like too focused on figuring out what the heck am I going to do with my life, right? Like, so many things were put on pause so I could go do that. Um, and so I was like, all right, I'm going to get back into it. Which is also kind of cool, because now that I have done that, I'm like, okay, cool. I can go back and enjoy it the way I want to enjoy it again. Right. I do feel like it's a very liberating, like, experience getting back into it after kind of establishing life.
So it's funny because, I said at the kickoff, whenever, we first started recording, that this was a very selfish episode for me. And the reason I asked that question is because I know when I personally walked away from it, and I've stuck to it for the most part, I was like, I can't do this anymore. And it wasn't so much the creative side of it as it was the social side of it. It was like being trapped in a junior high school girl's locker room, like whenever it came to playing with bandmates, other bands. And it was like, socially, I felt so disconnected. The last band I was in had a third album completely ready to go, minus my vocal parts. And I just couldn't write because I was stifled creatively. Because, as Mike had said, I wasn't aligned with what I was creating at the time. So I asked that question very selfishly to say, hey, guys, I think this happened to all of us to some degree or another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I definitely would agree with that. And I think that, like, that's kind of the appropriate point too, right? It's like, you can kind of tell when an artist is into it or not. And you can kind of tell when they're like over the moon with what they've created. And I'll be honest with you, I just want to be over the moon with what I create, period. Right. I don't want to be just okay with it.
So creatively, like, how did you fill that void, Kevin, whenever you left and, the band was kind of starting to take off at the same time?
Yeah, creatively, I'd say I got into other stuff, and kind of redefined myself. We were pretty young then. I still had it in me to go back to college, so I really dug into that, and got an engineering degree, and that took up a lot of headspace that music would have before, right? And then, so creatively though, I guess it was really kind of on hold-ish. I did other things, got a lot into outdoor stuff, backpacking, snowboarding, kind of just other things that feed the soul, I guess you'd say. The same way that music can is how I fed that part of my brain. And eventually really missed it. I always still played guitar, but wasn't like writing music really at all for a long time. And yeah, found it calling back, and eventually to here where we're talking now.
I love that. So were you still in the band when the Real World Anomaly happened?
that was like weeks after I left. I remember. Yeah, it was like so close to. It's funny to laugh about it. I definitely wasn't laughing about it then. But these years, yeah, that was like I was like, oh, I can't believe I'm seeing this right now. Like these guys up there, and that was really when like things were happening. When I was in the band, we still played some big fun shows. Like it was awesome, but the stuff that happened after that, I'm sure was even more nuts. But I was knee deep in some textbooks at that point.
So, Mike, have you ever gone back and watched that season of The Real World?
So not only have I had to do that, I won't say willingly, but at an old job, someone found every clip that I appeared in and made a string out of every clip that I'm in. Not only made the video, but in a big meeting in front of a lot of people and said, oh, I have something really important I know how to present, and like played the clip. And it's just all these clips of me and The Real World. And yeah, it was very interesting. It's hard to look at, man. It's real hard to look at. It's real hard.
Love it. I love it. So as time progressed, the Real World thing happened. Writer's Reference EP came out. You had the straight up cover on the Punk Goes East album, which honestly, that was my introduction to you guys, was the straight up cover. And then I found Sydney. And then, so this is my other selfish moment. My last band that I was in, we used to always do a surprise cover. And we've covered Don't Believe by Letter Kills. I'm friends with those guys. I love Letter Kills.
I love Letter Kills.
We did a couple of Finch songs. We pulled out Our Revolution by Halifax. And I tell you what, dude, that shit is hard to sing live.
Yeah, it was a rough one for sure, dude. Cool.
Yeah. So what in the motley crew brought that to the forefront for you, sir?
Yeah, so we were recording with an incredible, amazing producer from New Jersey. It goes by Machine. And I started getting a little sick. And like, I normally don't have a lot of rasp in my voice. That's never been my thing. And when I was feeling kind of sick, I started getting a little bit of rasp. And we were writing this like really crazy, hair metal rock song. The decision was made to lean in, right? It has definitely homage to the crew kind of thing, right? And then there were these notes that were a little higher than I was comfortable going towards. And when I did it while I was sick, it started kind of breaking up my voice. And for whatever reason, it didn't faze me. It was almost like I could sing. I had enough air because of how my voice was breaking up when singing that song. And so they were like, you're going to have struggles with this live. I'm like, well, I'll practice. I'll get to it. Let's do it. Like everyone agreed. It sounded cool. So we just went and did it. And sure enough, it was a pain in the ass live. But I guess I digress. I just did it. Made it work. Leaned on the crowd to help me out,
Dude, I went to a small club show at Knickerbockers in Lincoln, Nebraska, and watched you guys do it, and you killed it live. So
thank you.
So I mean, take comfort in that. Weird question that kind of falls in line with that is, I mentioned my friends in Letter Kills, and I posed this question to them too, and it actually led into this whole philosophical discussion. Had Inevitability of a Strange World dropped a year later, have you ever asked the what if of like what could have happened because of where rock music kind of went? Because you guys were a little bit ahead of the curve as far as that sound, like the big guitar solo, guitar rock sound coming back into the forefront, for all the nudging and joking Motley Crue-esque stuff. Yeah. Like you were definitely ahead of that a little bit. And so was Letter Kills. The guys in Letter Kills talk about how the Guns N' Roses Appetite for Destruction, the first single, dropped and the album didn't actually hit until a year later, until the second single. So have you ever lived in that what if?
It's interesting. I don't think I've ever lived in that what if. Because, to be totally honest, I kind of felt like leaning into that song, if I'm being honest, was a little bit of a mistake, right? It's a cool song, but it definitely didn't represent the whole album. And that was like my biggest thing, is I would love for someone to see like, hey, what's this song from this band that's their ticket in? And then they hear the other songs and like, what the heck? This is what the single was. That's weird, So maybe there's a little bit of what if on that side, but it was more so had it come earlier. I definitely more so think like had this come earlier, what would that have been like? And then I immediately shut it off and just start thinking about something different and be like, I can't do that to myself. You know?
Yeah, like Nightmare. Nightmare is like a little bit more of an accurate representation of what you guys sounded like.
Kevin was helping write that song, right? Like that was the natural, what we talked about earlier, that was the natural progression of Halifax. If you listen to Sydney to Nightmare, that's more of a natural progression.
Yeah,
and then
it is.
Gotten more and more.
Yeah.
That's when it started to kind of, I think, lose it a bit.
Yeah.
Well, let's bring it to the here. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, just real quick. It's like the writer's reference, Nightmare, that you said, and then the final track on Inevitability, Murder, I wrote. That's in my brain what Halifax is defined as.
Fair enough. Well, let's bring this to the here and now. Let's talk about Great Danes, because this is something worth getting excited about. You know, I listened to the whole album, Nomad Empire, like a couple of times today. I think it is very interesting that you guys reimagined Sydney, and again, making the Thrice reference. It did really remind me of how Thrice remade Artist in the Ambulance, and you could hear the gristle, you could hear the age, you could hear the maturity in taking one piece of art and like adding life experience to it and turning it into something new. And I think the whole album is very reflective of that. Body in the Marsh, I absolutely loved that one. Atom Bomb, I loved that one. Like, you guys have a fantastic album. Like, what do you want the world to know about it?
I think that for this album in particular, there's a little bit of a story that I think needs to be told for it, because it helps answer that question, I think, which is Kevin and I reconnected. We started talking about, you know, what back in the day was going on, where we left off. Ultimately, that conversation got to, so what are you doing now? You making music? And by the end of that, like we're talking about like an hour and a half of a conversation. By the end of it, we had agreed that we were going to maybe make music together. We're going to figure something out. We're going to make some music. And I had sat on a lot of material, a lot of ideas and things that I've collected in my brain over the years. And sometimes I even tried to like make them. And so Nomad Empire really was like, hey, this is it. This is the time to do it. Like Kevin and I are going to get together and make some really cool music. I get to like pull some of these things out that I've really wanted to pull out for a long time. And it's interesting because I would say about 2/3 of the album is stuff that's actually been in the hopper for a long time, just never actually recorded or never actually finished, you know, like it took both of us to finish it. And then there's a couple songs on there, like 1/3 of the album that is like just brand new, like I'm almost exercising the writing muscles again. And so the takeaway would be, is almost going back to what you said earlier, is like, if you wanted the natural progression to Halifax, like this is where it would have been going. And this is, in my mind, the start, right? Like we almost have a whole other album ready to go too. Like that we're, you know, working on more music and stuff. But like, this is just like the intro, right? This is the for fans of Wet Your Beak, get back into it. This is how we're going to be approaching this stuff. And I will call out specifically the song Ocean is the oldest song, right? That is probably 15, maybe more a year. Like that's how old that idea was. And then the song Strange Bird was written like almost right before we finished the album, which is the last song on the album. So there's like a almost 20-year gap between when the first song was written and the last song was written, which is really cool. So there's like a weird story through time of this album that I think is really important. And it would never have been made if it weren't for Kevin and I reconnecting and deciding to start something new.
Awesome. What about through your purview, Kevin?
Yeah. For me, as we said a few times, we've been talking for 20 years, and I ran into a mutual friend of ours who kind of, this guy Taylor Volts, he's awesome. He pretty much caused this to happen. He threw out, he was like, hey, you and Mike should make some tunes together, after we were talking about other little side projects we were working on. I was like, that's fucking crazy. I haven't talked to Mike in 20 years, you know, and I think Mike probably had the same reaction when Taylor hit him up about it. But we both, I don't know, something kind of, it seemed like the right thing to do. For me personally, like Strange World was an album that like I never got to complete, really. We were just starting to work on it, right? And that's always something that kind of like was like, fuck, I hate that. for me. So this album is really literally picking up where we left off in 2004, and is the spiritual successor of that era, I think. And like you said, I know we keep talking about Thrice, but I think they're such a good example because that progression of Thrice from Artist in the Ambulance to now is like unbelievable, and I think people who only stick to that artist era are doing themselves a disservice. And there's so much. I think it's awesome that you compared our progression to that. That's very flattering. It's see it, and I think that comes from life experience almost more than musical experience.
Yes.
Really.
Yes. So, leaning into the musical side of it, what are your influences now in that 20-year span versus when you were writing some of the earlier material as Halifax? Like, obviously, you've picked up some tools, added them to the toolbox. And, I've said this on probably 30 episodes of the podcast. Streaming services have removed the guardrails to adhering to genres. Like, you're not so bound by, like, okay, well, you're the punk rock guy, so you got to stick to the punk rock side lane, right?
Yeah.
So musically, just one at a time, what kind of influences do you have now that you didn't have then?
You want to take this one first, or you want me to go
First, yeah, I'll chime in.
Okay. You kind of touched on it, but like musical influences of like what we listen to is a whole other topic, and I'm happy to jump into that. But for me, it's all technology. It is all technology, right? It's because like back in the day, for me at least, for writing songs, it's grab an acoustic and strum until I come up with an idea, right? And now it's like make a beep boop sound or have a weird, like heavy, chuggy thought that you can't really accomplish the feeling on an acoustic, but you can just boot up Logic and get it across and be like, okay, cool. I could see this actually working, right? Like technology is inspiring because you can actually hear the idea in real time as you're developing it. To me, that was the biggest thing because I never had the patience for it back in the day. Like to learn those programs, I was always just like, I just want to make cool shit, I just want to go. And so once we got into that and we figured that out, my history is way more poppy, pop punk, like, wanting to do more heavy stuff, but I just never naturally had it. And honestly, I think Kevin adds so much heaviness to the songs that it's like, it's exactly what the goal is, the dream is, that we're able to take our influences and mash it together and make it what it's supposed to be, which is cool. I don't know, Kevin, what you think?
Yeah, exactly. The technology was a game changer. Like it made it so that we were able to really do this pretty quickly without ever entering a studio. Doing it from the spaces we're talking to you from right now is awesome. And you can get amazing guitar sounds, and it's limitless. But as far as like influences, yeah, a lot of music since 2004 has shaped my brain. As Mike indicated, I've always gravitated toward heavy stuff. Like, and a lot of the stuff that I loved in 2004, I still love because it's old, like old Neurosis and Tool and, that kind of stuff. But newer bands like Russian Circles is one of my favorite bands that kind of came to life in that last few decades. Like they're just an inspiration to me. They're so fucking heavy and creative, and like their guitar work is just you know them, so they're something special. I like love that band, and I've listened to a lot of other random, like the not alt country, but some like Jason Isbell and Sturgill Simpson. Yeah, I love like that style is something that I never would have listened to back in the day, but as a more grown up person, I feel it more. So yeah, lots of random stuff.
Dude, that is hilarious. I tell everybody, like, the last band I was in kind of was in a Treyu Story of the Year kind of vein. And I was like, I couldn't write new music because I spent the entire last year listening to either Jay-Z albums or Jason Isbell albums. And like, how do you write like post-hardcore, punk rock songs whenever you're like either in your feelings or you're listening to workout music,
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's interesting you say that because there are times where like, because I mean, I'll be honest, I blast like disco, like I blast random stuff all the time on regular. And sometimes I'll find myself writing parts of songs that I'm like adding something. I'm like, all the other bands wouldn't do that. Like, that's weird. Don't do that. And I'm like, now at least mature enough and grown up enough to say, fuck it. Like, I'm going to do it. Like, if I like it, I like it,
Don't limit.
That's where some of the comfort I think comes in, is like, now I'm just kind of more comfortable in my skin. I'm doing it for a different reason. And yeah, I love that. I think that like you should embrace, at least in your scenario that you were talking about, like if those are the influences, then it's like exciting to see what comes out. That's at least how I've been kind of thinking about it.
Right. But that's more forgivable now than it even was like 14 years ago, because 14 years ago or beyond, you had to stay in your lane or else you're alienating the people that are following you and like subscribing to your like music isn't as much of a lifestyle now as it used to be then. It's something you just love and you enjoy. You can bounce between a pop song to a metal song and nobody's going to think anything of it now.
A lot of the really good metalcore these days is pop music just with metal on top of it. At the end of the day, if you strip all these songs back to like pretty acoustic or pretty pop songs, they would work. I guess it's the better way to say it, But to your point, I love this band to death, but like if you took Sleep Token and put them 14 years ago, people they would have not taken off, and now we're in the era where it works.
Mm-hmm. Bring Me the Horizon is another one that I think about that has like evolved so much now that they're to a point where every album they drop sounds completely different than the last album, except for Ollie's vocals, really.
Yeah. I've been really into Bad Omens lately too. Like I'm late on the train, but
I was late on Bring Me the Horizon, so we're on the same page, bro.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, like, what are you listening to now that really does excite you outside of your own music?
I mean, I am partially listening to the stuff that I'm discovering and like now, but I'm also doing it through the ears of my 10-year-old son, right? Because he has developed a taste for music. He's developed a taste for hard, screamy, chug music. And he likes the theatrics, right? Like he loves Slipknot, right? So we play a lot of Slipknot in my house for him because he loves it. Sleep Token I introduced him to, but like there's that band President, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And he likes President because it's got this cool thematic to it. It's got this mystery and whatnot. And so stuff along those lines, I listen to a lot, like I said, of Bad Omens, Architects, things like that. Thrice and Muse are always on rotation, by the way. Thrice and Muse are just a given.
Yeah, I've been listening. Probably the like most played thing I've had recently is a band called Idle Airs, which is, I don't know if you ever heard of a band called Coalesce, which was an old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's the singer of Coalesce with another guy, and it's very heavy. It's very different than Coalesce. It's like raw, emotional, dark. It's fucking awesome. I really like it. I've listened to that quite a bit since it came out. And another band Mike and I have seen a couple times, Barbarians of California. They're a band out of this area that is, I think, fresh and different and fun and like insanely heavy.
Love it. So, going back to Great Danes, what's it like launching this project now versus if you would have launched it in 2005, 2006? Is it more of a challenge now or is it less of a challenge?
Ooh, that is such a good question, because like it would not have been launched in 2005 or 6 because we the amount of hoops you have to jump through in order to get that to be a thing, right? To figure out who's going to distribute it, find a label, blah, 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 blah. Like when I exited, it was just starting to become a little bit easier to publish music, right? Now, I mean, Kevin and I, we did it from these rooms and we were able to release it, no problem. Getting it out is not the problem. Now the problem is figuring out how to get it in front of people and stand out in a sea, right? I think the biggest thing that we've learned, I'm curious, Kevin, what you think, but like making the music and releasing it was like almost like the first little, like, I don't know, intro to what it's like to release music. It's the sustain, it's the social media presence, it's the, making sure you're optimizing all your platforms and things like that. Like, yes, it's great you have this freedom, you can do it yourself, but like there's a lot to it. And I don't think either one of us really anticipated or realized that.
Yeah, it's quite a hustle just to have any presence and yeah, the social is like crucial, obviously. And Mike and I are not social media managers, but we're playing them right now the best we can. So, back in the day, we had support from like a lot of people who were excited. This day, it's just me and Mike doing this, just fucking punk rock DIY. DMing you yourself and saying, let's do it. So we're treating it organic and having fun, just kind of doing the DIY attitude.
Do you think that because there are so many different avenues of like social media and like ways to promote this product and the absence of what used to be monoculture, like you used to get together on a Sunday night and watch the MTV Video Music Awards. Now, like you find out the Video Music Awards have happened like a week later and you're like, oh shit, that was on? Like, because there's so much now. Do you feel that barrier to entry to promoting new music is more of a challenge? I know what the obvious answer is, but
That's a tough one. Yeah. I mean, like, we were just kind of talking about it a minute ago where I referenced like being late on the Bad Omens train or whatever. It's like, but at the end of the day, who cares, right? Like the point is that you get to discover it and it's exciting and you like get to listen to it. I think for us, we were so eager. Like we had the record done well before it came out. We were just like, hey, we want to put this out. And friends were like, don't, you got to like figure it out your release plan and you got to do this stuff on social and blah, blah, blah. And we're like,
We're like,
why?
hold on a fucking minute.
Yeah. We were like, wouldn't it be cool if you could just listen to it? Like, and they're like, no, you got to do this whole thing. And I was like, all right. So we waited, we tried to build up some buzz and we put it out, but now it's just like, again, it's out there. So is there pressure for people to hear it now? No, you discover it when you want to discover it. But we just hope that at some point you do, like it's definitely weird and there's a lot more out there. So there's a lot of noise, but if you're Kevin and I aligned on this from almost day one where we were like, the most important thing is that we really love what we're doing.
Yeah, it's fun. It's just having fun making music, and if two people hear it, fucking whatever. That was our attitude starting this.
Love that. So have you guys fully fleshed out the band? Do you have a full band now, or is it still primarily just the two of you? And what are kind of the goals as far as translating this live? Do you plan on translating this live?
Yeah, we started that. We have another guitar player, and a drummer who are awesome people. We love them very much. And we get together as often as we can and have a set that's like the Nomad Empire set that we've been practicing and working on. And, if the opportunity came up to play a show, then we absolutely would. I think we've been exploring it, but we're doing everything backwards. Bands get together, rehearse, write, record, put it out, then go promote it. And we're like, no, we made the album first. And now we're figuring out if we can go play live. But we absolutely have the setup now and we're ready to do it. We're excited for it. So it's just a matter of time, I would say.
Yeah, we got a couple shredders to join us. And Mike's playing guitar. If that wasn't clear in this, Mike will also be playing guitar on stage, which is a departure from the Halifax days. And yeah, it's fun. I'm really excited. To me, that's like one of the things I miss more than anything. Like making the songs and creating this record was really fulfilling and awesome. But I haven't played a show in a couple decades. So I'm ready to do that shit again.
It's funny. It's like not a point of contention. Kevin's like, let's practice and go play a show. And I'm like, all right, if you could figure that out, great. I'm going to go make a bunch of other songs right now. Cause I really just,
I'm like, no, let's play a show, dude.
We're just like kind of torn on that at times, but it's just because there's so much, it's fun to do all of it.
Right. So adding these other two guys to the band, has it kind of influenced your writing process? You say you could almost record a second album already. Like,
I don't know that the group has really changed it because the writing process is effectively the same. Kevin and I put down thoughts and send sessions back and forth and text each other about things we're excited about. Because it's still primarily created through the two of us. Yeah, no, I don't think it's changed too much. If anything, like the day that we met back up again and I ultimately decided to do this, I had never opened Logic before, right? And Kevin taught me Logic, and then since then we've both been learning as we're making music, right? So I would say the advancement, the changing the process in terms of writing music, especially going from album 1 to album 2, is actually just learning how to do it better, learning word technique and stuff like that. But the writing itself is very similar to what it was before.
And you guys, this is completely self-produced. Like Nomad Empire is completely done in home between the two of you.
Yeah, I mean, we had some help, right?
We have drum help is something that both of us don't know. So we have a friend who helps contribute the drums to execute the vision, and then mixing. We have a friend who's a really good friend of ours who helps us mix it because we don't have that skill set. But yeah, other than that, it's just us.
The fidelity is outstanding. Like honestly,
Glad to hear.
like the production layers and such that I heard, I was just hearing that, I'm beside myself, but I'm also beholden to the old process. So I'm like, well, we got to find a studio with big ceilings so the drums sound right, blah, 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 you know?
Yeah.
Well,
No, we leaned into the new stuff for sure.
It's funny because like, you know, I had never recorded vocals by myself, right? I'd always ever been in a studio with someone saying, okay, go, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I bought a microphone and I put it literally right next to where I am. Like I could like pull it into the frame. And I remember talking to a friend of ours who's like, oh, well, you're going to want to put this stuff on your walls. You're going to want to like do this and do the shield and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't really want to do that. And like, well, you got to do that. And I was like, I don't think I'm gonna. And I just recorded the vocals here and we figured out a way to make it work and it worked. So technology, right? Like it just kind of did its job.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So yeah, shout out to John Locks though. He's the mixer, master, and engineer. Like, you know, Mike and I kind of put the sandwich together of the tracks, and then he really fine-tuned it and added his own guitar sounds and stuff. And I think the fidelity of it is really his baby. Credit to John. He fucking killed it. And he plays guitar a couple times on the album too, which his contributions are fucking awesome too.
Phenomenal. So if you had to describe to audiences that checked out Nomad Empire where this project is going to evolve, how do you see it evolving over the next, let's just say 18 months?
So personally, on the cover art, like there's a character, right? And I kind of feel like there's a theme, right? Like the whole concept of Nomad Empire was all about this area that we live in and how these are all these songs that were written in various stages over the years. Kevin and I are from an area where we have all these friends and connections that have different involvements in music. So we were kind of like joking around calling it the Nomad Empire, right? And so there's kind of like another character that's coming for the second album and the next, like once it releases. And so I think that for fans of, particularly on the album Evil Opera and Ocean, the more like theatrical songs, the songs that have a little bit more of like the big chorus, falsetto, like choir, operatic background things, like that's my jam. And I'm really trying to like, what do you want to lean hard into that a bit more. But also to the point I made earlier about only a third of the album was written in the last year. Everything else was like material from over time. This is the first time a lot of material is being written under a completely different mindset of like understanding how it could be. So where is this going in the next 18 months from a musical perspective? That's where it's going. From like you know, how it's digested. Like Kevin and I are doing our social stuff. We're going to continue to make videos and have fun doing it and promoting it. But we've already talked about experimenting on release cadence and what that looks like. And does it need to be everything at once? Sorry, Kevin, I like completely word vomited all that stuff.
No, so yeah, that's your mindset, right? And you're the primary creative force here, so it's definitely an important lens. And then, you know, as we were just talking about, trying to play shows, we're open to that. So if anyone's listening, you know, hit us up. We're interested, and I think we'd both like to see the album out in a physical format. I'm a vinyl nerd myself, so yeah, that would be really cool to do. So that's an endeavor we can pursue this year, and I think that's what it looks like. We're keeping up band practice and you know, trying to just fulfill ourselves creatively and keep everything moving.
So what's so funny is I was like scrolling your Instagram earlier today, and you guys have this video where somebody does the Metallica Fuel. Give me fuel, give me fire. I'm like, holy shit, I don't know how many times I've done that at band practice. And of course, the drummer just like, I'm in, let's do it.
No, I don't know if you caught it, but like Trevor, our guitar player, like the amount of excitement that just bursts out of him when that happens, and he just wants to like start with the riff. I'm glad you appreciated that, because that is definitely one of those amazing times.
We laughed pretty hard. Yeah, it was just, I don't know why we always talk about that song, but we do.
So, just kind of, manifesting things and like looking at what's tangible. Is there a band from the early days back when you guys were playing with Halifax that you would love to reconnect with and play a show with as Great Danes?
I'll let Mike go first.
No, you go, because I'm stumped. I'm trying to think.
I think for me, like I said, my time in the band was fairly brief, so I have some strong memories of specific few bands. And one of the strongest memories I have is Armor for Sleep. We toured with them pretty early on, before their full length that got really big came out. It was I think it's called Dream to Make Believe. Is that what it's called? It's so good. I love that album, and that band is still doing their thing. I listened to their new stuff the other day and was like pretty impressed with it. So that would be a band for me that I'd like to reconnect with.
I mean, one of my favorite bands from that era that we had toured together actually a few times probably would have been I Am the Avalanche or Movie Life, one of those two. I always had such fond memories playing with them, but also just their music I really, really like. But also, I'm going to say, because you mentioned it, I'm also a huge Letter Kills fan. So I would have given anything to be in the same room with that band.
We'll talk when the recording stops. Yeah. Seriously. Yes. Well, guys, I have really enjoyed this conversation. My favorite question to ask at the wrap up of every episode, and it's because everybody gives it such a unique answer, is one at a time. And it's an off the wall question, but what's your advice for making the world a better place tomorrow than what it is today through your life experience?
You pointing at me, Mike?
You go first.
Sure. I guess I'll say what I share with my 4-year-old son, is to just try to leave everywhere you go a little bit better than you found it. And I think if everyone could keep that in mind, whether that means cleaning something up or being a friend to someone or whatever, that's my tip to make the world a better place.
We only have so much time on this earth, and everyone only has so much time on this earth. So if you're able to spend some of, if not a lot of that time, making someone else's day better or treating someone else with respect that helps them throughout whatever hard time they're going through, then you're spending your time wisely, in my opinion. I think that the fact that we have the ability to treat other people the way we want to be treated, like actively set an example, and we don't, is a disservice to humanity. So my thing would just be like, treat people with respect, treat people the way you want to be treated. And if everyone starts to do that, then wouldn't the world be just a much better place to be in?
Hell yes. All right, guys, tell everybody that's either watching this or listening to this where they can find Great Danes music and you guys online.
Great Danes streaming everywhere, should be anywhere you stream your music. And we're currently on Instagram at Great Danes 818. And that's it for socials.
Awesome. Well, guys, Mike, Kevin, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I hope we can talk again here in the near future once more music drops. We'll talk whenever I stop recording about some Letter Kills stuff. But thank you guys so much for doing the show. The world is a much better place with you in it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. We're honored.